So let me tell y'all the hullabaloo that I saw on the internet and how white people just paint the craziest narratives and they don't have to be rooted in truth at all. They just say stuff and it's like, what? Okay, so there's this picture on Twitter and then somebody replies to one of my tweets, so it pops back up. I will put the picture in this video, right? It is of a black guy wearing a do-rag with his white coat on and he's smoking a cigar. And he says, who said people can't wear do-rags and be a doctor, right? Now, the sentiment behind this picture is, when black people graduate, they like to, put like cultural things in their, pictures, put a do-rag on, put a bonnet on, whatever, right? Because, yeah, who said I can't do this and be my authentically black self, right? But I think the picture is AI for two reasons. One, he has a watch on both wrists, okay? That's the first thing. And then two, he's smoking the cigar backwards. Now, this is my thing. I don't know anything about cigars. So if I was trying to pose in a picture with a cigar for some reason and it was not lit, I don't know, maybe I'd put it in my mouth backwards. I don't know how they look. I don't know if it's obvious to, somebody who doesn't smoke them. Oh, this is the part you put in your mouth. I don't know, right? But the cigar was lit. Okay, so it's no way you're going to put a lit cigar in your mouth the wrong way, right? And then the smoke appeared to be like coming from nowhere. Like what? That's why I think the picture is AI, right? But anyway, white people are sharing this picture up in arms. They're like, oh, he's not even smart enough to smoke the cigar correctly. Like, yada, yada, yada. How many white people did he like take their spot of whatever, right? So I want to get into how like white people tend to just make stuff up and just run with it. Like, y'all. So one person commented, they said, how many times was he allowed to take the MCAT with the auto added points for his race before he passed? Okay, so as a black person who has taken the MCAT before, let me help y'all out a little bit, right? First of all, everybody has a 7-time lifetime attempt for the MCAT, okay? So whether you are white or black, whether you are Asian or Hispanic, whether you are a man or a woman, LGBTQ or straight, you have 7 attempts for the MCAT within your lifetime. And after that, you can't take it no more, okay? Nobody was like, oh, you're black. Actually, you get 10 attempts. That is not a thing, okay? Then auto added points for race. What? Like, you think if you check the black box, they're like, oh, we giving you 10 extra points. Like, what? Now, what I think this person may have been attempting to refer to, right, is the fact that black and also Hispanic and Native American, right? But I'm going to just focus on black people, okay? Because y'all know one thing about me, I'm talking about black people, okay? Y'all talk about y'all communities and y'all don't never bother to bring black people up or look out for us. So I'm talking about me and my peoples, okay? So black people, right? Black medical school matriculants. So matriculants are people who actually start medical school. So you may apply to medical school and you may not matriculate, right? Because maybe you didn't get in or maybe you deferred your acceptance for the next year, whatever, right? Black matriculants into medical school do have lower MCAT averages than white and Asian matriculants, right? Now, I mean, if you want to sit here and just be like, oh, yeah, that's because black people weren't as smart, then okay, I mean, whatever, because, I mean, you're disingenuous, right? Like I said, you're not rooted in reality anyway, right? But let's talk about reality, okay? Now, for years, I taught chess in different schools with different programs. So sometimes I was teaching chess in Detroit in predominantly black schools. Sometimes I was teaching chess out in the suburbs in white and Asian schools, whatever. I went to a lot of different schools that had a lot of different racial makeups, right? And let me tell you something. I noticed something that stands out in my mind. And I hate that I don't know where I was because that was back before I started paying attention to like street signs and stuff. I used to just be driving, y'all. But I was somewhere driving out to some white or Asian school, right? And y'all, the houses were like mansions. I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, what? Like, these people are literally rich. Like, literally gotta be millionaires to have houses like this that they are upkeeping. Not even joking, right? Now, I want to compare that to a school that I worked in Brightmoor, Detroit, right? When I pulled up to that school, I was like, oh, I don't think I'm going to even stay here because I don't feel comfortable leaving my car parked out here. Y'all, when I tell you it was falling off the bone in that neighborhood, like falling off the bone, baby. It was busted as fuck. All the houses was abandoned. It was tore up, right? Now, stop for a second and think about how schools are funded based off of property taxes, okay? So imagine how much in property taxes those people in that white or Asian neighborhood were paying for those big multi-million-dollar homes versus how much money in property taxes somebody is paying for an abandoned building. Make the comparison. Then think to yourself, how much funding are these school children in Brightmoor getting versus these children out in Beverly Hills or whatever, right? Think about that for a second. And then it starts to make sense. Well, the school barely has any funding, right? The black school compared to these white and Asian schools. So is it really a shock that they can't afford to hire the best teachers or to get the best supplies or to basically instill the best education? Is that really shocking? Take a moment to think to yourself, why don't schools, public schools, right? We're talking about public schools. We're not talking about private schools that are funded by, the people paying tuition. No, we're talking about public schools, government funded schools, right? Why don't all schools receive the same amount of funding based off of how many students attend there? Why doesn't the government say, okay, we're giving this much funding per student, no matter what school it is? Why would property taxes have anything to do with the funding that a school receives? Oh, because we live in a country with a racial wealth gap. So in general, black people make less money than white people and Asians. Therefore, our houses are worth less, right? Therefore, we pay less in property taxes. Therefore, our children's schools are less funded, right? So is it really that shocking that a school with less funding ends up, educating a child less than a school with more funding? Is it really that shocking, right? So then finally, right, you get to the point where you're 18 years old and it's time to go to college. Is it really that shocking that a child who went to one of these underfunded black schools is less prepared for college than their, white or Asian counterparts? Is it really that shocking that they end up doing a little worse on the MCAT because of that? Is it really that shocking? I don't think so. Now, let's get to my point, right? Because you all are going to say, well, if they did worse on the MCAT, then they not as smart, they not as this, they not as that, they shouldn't be a doctor, right? Do you know how many licensing exams you have to take to become a doctor, friend? I promise you, once you get to medical school, it's not just, I'm here, okay, I'm going to be a doctor, it's smooth sailing. You have to take so many board exams to become a doctor, right? So if you do not learn that material and you do not pass those board exams, guess what? You will not be a doctor. That is a fact, right? So anybody, regardless of MCAT score, who becomes a doctor, passed all of their board exams. That is the first thing I want to point out, right? Now, the next thing that I want to point out is this, right? Can you take a second to imagine the fact that somebody like me, right? I graduated from Detroit Public Schools, right? I'm going up against people who went to private schools and who went to those public schools out in wherever with the $1 million mansions around them and had so much more funding and this, that, and so and so and so, right? So maybe my, matriculation score on average was lower than theirs, right? But when you look at the circumstances, when you take a complete psychosocial approach, right? When you look at everything that there is to look at, the fact that I am still competing with these people is a motherfucking marvel. So I will say this, shout out to every black person who is matriculating into medical school, even if your MCAT score is a little bit lower than the white matriculants or the Asian matriculants or whatever, right? Because the fact that you even competed with those people and got a competitive enough MCAT score to get into medical school, even though you had none of the same resources, again, is a marvel. When people say, oh, black people have to work twice as hard for half as much, that shit is so true. Bro, white people complaining about black people matriculating into medical school with lower MCAT scores, that's literally like you running a race against somebody with one leg and then complaining because they at least get to use they peg leg. You know what I'm saying? Not even no good high-tech prosthetic or nothing, which first of all, still your ass should not be running against a motherfucker with no leg, no matter what type of prosthetic they got, right? But you mad because they get to use a wooden peg instead of hop the fucking race against you, right? So you mad, you finished the race ahead of them, of course, motherfucker, because you got two fucking legs, and then you complaining, well, that's bold. Y'all let them use their peg leg and you still letting them go to the motherfucking the Olympics or whatever. Well, bitch, maybe you should be running against motherfuckers with two legs. Or maybe you should, matter of fact, maybe you should stop chopping people's legs off. You're the reason the motherfucker got one leg. Imagine you sit there, you chop somebody's leg off and then be like, yeah, now let's run the race. I bet I can beat you. I bet you fucking can, nigga. You just chopped my fucking leg off. Like, bro, whenever I see y'all complaining about this and literally ignoring everything that you all put black people through in this country, I am just flabbergasted, bro. Like, why are we being delusional here? Now, let me get into another reply. Somebody said, my brother scored in the 95th percentile on the MCAT, and he didn't get into any of the schools that he applied to. Now, admittedly, he applied to only top choice schools, but he just gave up, and now he works with his hands. Now, I'm confused because, first of all, you're probably lying, okay? But second of all, I went ahead, I looked up 95th percentile MCAT score. That's a 518. Then I looked up the average MCAT score of people matriculating into Johns Hopkins. On average, people who attend Johns Hopkins Medical School get a 520 or 521 on the MCAT. Then I looked up Harvard. They get a 520 as well, right? So I stopped there. I didn't bother to look up any more like, big name, whatever universities, right? But your brother got a 518, and the two schools that I checked on average accept people who got 520s to 521s. So your brother didn't get a high enough score for the school that he wanted to attend. So yeah, he didn't get in. So maybe your brother should have said, I got a 518. Let me look at schools who have an average matriculation between, like 515 and 520 or something, something like that, right? And apply to those schools. Why would he apply to schools that on average accept people who have 520s and 521s? At that point, he has low stats for that. Like, can we be for real, right? Can we be for real? And that brings up another point. Y'all want to notice something I've noticed, right? Is that some people are going to medical school for the prestige, right? Because this is the reality. When you tell someone that you're in medical school, or you tell someone that you're a resident doctor, or you tell someone whatever, right? There is a prestige associated with that there isn't really if you tell someone that you're a teacher or something like that, right? That is a fact. I'm not sitting here saying that I agree or disagree with it, right? But I'm pointing that out. There is a prestige associated with attending medical school, being a doctor, being a whatever, right? And a lot of people are chasing that high, okay? And for a lot of people, not only do they want the prestige of medical school, they want the prestige of a big name school like Johns Hopkins or Harvard or this or that or so and so and so. Because again, if you got a 518, why are you surprised that you didn't get into Harvard? I'm not mad you applied because of course, you're not that far off, but you shouldn't be shocked that you didn't get in knowing that you have a lower lower MCAT score than the average matriculant for those schools. Like, you should not be shocked, right? Now, let me be real with you, right? I'm not about to sit here and be like, oh, you shouldn't be happy about the fact that you're going to be making buku, shuku, duduku money once you're a doctor. I'm not finna sit here and say that. As somebody who grew up broke, I'm going to tell you right the fuck now, don't nobody want to be broke, bitch. Let me be very fucking clear, very fucking transparent. So I'm not going to sit here and say that, like, money is not a factor in choosing to go to medical school, right? But it should not be the primary factor or the only factor. And you notice with a lot of people that medical school for them is just, again, a prestige thing. It makes a lot of money, and that's that. And you can definitely tell for a lot of people that is all that they care about. Absolutely, right? Because your goofy ass brother could have easily applied to some schools that had average MCAT scores closer to his score, and he could have easily got accepted, but he didn't. Instead, he chose to apply to a bunch of schools that had higher MCAT scores than he did because he's chasing that prestige. It's not actually about going to medical school or becoming a doctor or helping people or anything like that. It's just about being able to say, yeah, I'm this, right? And seeing people go, ooh, okay, like, all right, now, Chile, like, let me tell you something, because I'm finna get into the tea, but I would just say that, like, the best way I can describe it, and this is not a good description, right? Medical school is almost like a secret society. Like I said, that's not a good description, but you notice that most people in medical school are in the network already. And what I mean by that is that most people in medical school, even the black people, right? I'm not just talking about the white people and Asians. Most people in medical school are directly related to physicians. The average person in medical school is not first generation in medicine, right? It's like They have a lot of shit in place to make sure that the only people getting in are people who are already in the physician network. I'm not even joking. And that's all I'm going to say. Y'all can sit here and talk as much shit as y'all want to about black matriculants and whatever and so and so and so. But bitch, get over it. It's going to be black doctors. You going to be mad. And your raggedy ass still going to be fucking sick because you're not going to eat a fucking vegetable or do a fucking jumping jack. So shut the fuck up and be mad, bitch.